So, welcome everyone to an Ellie's exclusive with Lev Parnas. We are incredibly honored to have him with us today. We're super excited to have him with us today. Um, there's a lot to cover. We live in a world of fast paced shit, and Lev is one of the fastest. And knows the most. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you. Um, and do you mind introducing yourself to everyone? I know everybody knows who you are, but do you
Sure.
mind introducing yourself?
No, absolutely. First of all, Nick, Ellie, thank you for having me. And thanks for doing what you guys are doing. I know I've gotten to just get a little glimpse. I caught you on with Dean Blundell, and I got a chance to see, understand your veteran background a little bit. So I'm still also learning. But I mean, look, for those of you that don't know me, I was the guy that Donald Trump sent to Ukraine in his first administration to intimidate the Ukrainian, not only Vladimir Zelensky, but also the first president, Poroshenko. I was part of Donald Trump's shadow diplomacy. That's why I wrote the book called Shadow Diplomacy, because it dives into basically everything Donald Trump and how he formulated and how he works in the shadows and how you see right now, even with Steve Witkoff. To give you a great idea, I was the original Steve Witkoff. What you see Steve Witkoff doing now in real life, I used to do it behind the scenes, because back then Donald Trump still tried to hide it. He didn't flaunt it. He tried to, make believe and cover it up and try to play the game. This Donald Trump 2.0 obviously just doesn't care and is doing everything in plain sight, from taking money off, grifting from left to right for crypto, to taking away our rights, to, try and steal the election and before it even happened, and so on and so on. So I was that guy that was, like I said, Steve Witkoff. I ended up going to prison for him. I ended up at testifying later, coming out, testifying in Congress against Donald Trump. In his first impeachment, I gave over 100 pieces of evidence out of the 300 in his impeachment articles of his first impeachment. And then I testified in Congress on behalf of then President Biden to debunk then Jamie Comer's uh, as I can I say, bullshit,
Yeah. Yeah.
bullshit, impeachment trial of then President Joe Biden. So, there's a documentary made about me and my life by the great Rachel Maddow and Billy Corbin. If you haven't seen it, called From Russia with Lev. And till this day, I just try to tell the truth. I try bring the facts. I try to give people an insight, of the American public, the American voters, a real inside look of what's happening. There's people that break the news. I don't consider myself a journalist. I don't go out there and break the news. I consider myself, I make the news, because I basically, know these people inside out. I've been with them. I still have contacts in that world, and I know how they think, how they breathe. And when you associate that long, you're able to interpret what they're doing now, and that's what I'm doing.
That's thank you. Thank you for that introduction, but also just thank you. Um, I wanted to say that for a while. Like, as a veteran, as someone who has served the country, thank you for your service back, because you could have not done any of what you did to do your own mea culpa. As steal from Michael Cohen's phrasing on that, but you did a mea culpa, and it's amazing. And I appreciate what you did, and
Thank
what
you.
you're doing, and that's why we had you on, or why we have you on, is because what you're doing is just as important, if not more important, than what you've already done. Um, and knowing these people and knowing them from the inside out, and being a part of it, and experience and helping bring it to rise, you have a unique understanding that none of us do. So I want to scratch your brain a little bit on
Do it. Let's
some
do
of
it.
the shit that's going on right now. And I know Dean prepped you a little bit that I can be pretty poignant in some of my phrasing about these
Do
people.
it, my brother.
Um,
Do it. Don't hold back.
okay,
Good cop,
we
bad
need
cop.
Okay, we need to talk about what just happened today with SCOTUS. And I know
Yeah.
Dean and Zev were talking about it on the five stack just a few minutes ago, and we talked about it earlier today with right after Qasim Rashid is the or on Palin Talk was that the Supreme Court just legalized racial profiling and ethnic profiling. Um, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have any ideas of what the next thing is?
Well, for those of you that follow me or read my Substack, I've been warning you about this and telling you this is going to happen, and it's happening, playing out. It's just part of the Project 2025 master plan that they're putting into effect. And part of that was to stack the Supreme Court. For people that don't know, Donald Trump does not know these people in the Supreme Court. Donald Trump did not sit there and as a astute, studied, all the uh, capabilities of each and every individual. He didn't sit there and study their resumes. He didn't sit there. Donald Trump doesn't do this type of stuff. The way Donald Trump hired these or promoted or appointed, however you want to call these Supreme Court justices, was because there were people in his ear, people like Stephen Smith, people like Russell Vaugh, people like that were in his ear telling him to implement them because they were going to benefit him and they were going to allow him to do what he was going to do because Donald Trump doesn't do things for the benefit of others. Donald Trump does things for the benefit of himself. And with the quid pro quo situation, he stacked the Supreme Court, and now you're seeing the results. And that's why Donald Trump doesn't even hold it inside where he'll walk by during, what's it called? He a state, and that's what's the State of the Union speech, and come out
Yeah.
and come up to John Roberts and give him, talk to him like they're best friends. Like he has no problem that what's his name's wife is running around supporting him.
Oh, Jenny Thomas.
Ginny Thomas, yeah, Thomas is like so. It's like it's in the open where he even came out just when the lower court went against him also on the tariffs a couple of days ago,
Hmm.
and you didn't see him worry that much because he came out and said we're going straight to the Supreme Court, because in all honesty, it would be great to see them rule against him, but I don't see them ruling against him on the tariffs either. I think they're going to give it to him. And the fact that they allowed racial profiling to be right, and think about the strategic part, because what people don't miss, and this is what I always say, and I write my Substack letters, is not what's being reported on, it's what's not being reported, what's not talked about. And you know what they're not talking about? None of the media is the timing. The timing of this is wild. He's right now already has, and I've talked about, has people infiltrating ICE agents into Chicago. So now he's basically the Supreme Court right before his invasion into Chicago, into Portland, into other places has given him perfect permission to now, tell governors like Pritzker to go screw themselves because the whole thing that they were fighting about saying you can't just go racial profile, now he could go racial profile and just pick up people off the street.
What?
That's a
So
lot.
that's a lot. Because we just witnessed the end of due process. Basically, we're
Mhm.
witnessing the end of due process in real life right now, and Lev just laid it out like that's it, guys. Like the racial profiling thing is the next step. And I want to ask you if you've heard of anything in your circles around this. Is talk of Palantir and some of the use of the new technology that is now being turned inward towards the our civilian population. Is this something they talk about at all, or is this one of those areas that nobody wants to go into on the right?
No, I mean, this is let me put it this way. I'm not a technical guy, and it's, so I don't even understand a lot of the terminology, but I'll tell you this much just from, not only will they use it and are using it, but I'll give you an example. In the first campaign in 2015, 16, Trump had this guy, his name was Brad Pascal. I don't know if you guys remember. Brad Pascal ran his, kind of, um, campaign type, and part of it was using all sorts of different type of technology. Even back then, I remember, to target voters, to target their cell phones, to what they're watching, what they're reading, to be able. Back then, it was towards making sure to target who was for Second Amendment rights and not and other things. But the point I'm trying to make is they used anything they could
Yeah,
that was on the line, across the line, to be able to use for Apple research, and also for targeting voters. That absolutely, look. You don't even have to go far like that, guys. I mean, you're talking about Palantir. Look at what they Doge did. Well,
yeah,
by going into, I mean, basically they've got through, they are all our social security or our medical records. I mean, it's already in that world, in that tech bro world, where who knows where it is, where it's being sold, and how it will be used later on, and that we don't even know about right now. And that's some of the things I talk about, because yes, people. I want them all to always remember, even when we win our backyard democracy, it's just the quicker that we do it, the less pain we're going to have to deal with. But a lot of the things that he's already has done in the past 9 months is going to be a lot of pain that we're going to still have to go through, and even our kids are going to feel the pain because of stuff that he did internationally and even here, by using stuff like that with Doge and Palantir and others.
yeah. No, that totally, and that just I do a talk on Palantir all the time, so that it fits in with the narrative of what they're trying to do. It's a predictive profiling state that they're going to be using. It's not predictive policing, because policing actually requires like law and order and justice. That, at least in my opinion, this is predictive profiling that they're coming at us with on an internal scale. And like you said, they're ramping up operations in Chicago. Do you know anything about what the next steps look like in Chicago? Because I know there's major celebrations coming up that are going to have to be canceled and or loosened. But do you know any of the next steps?
Well, what I'm hearing, it's going to be pretty bad. They understand that Pritzker is going to do whatever he can. See, also have to understand with Donald Trump, the reason why he chose Chicago and why he chose California is because both Gavin Newsom and Pritzker want to run for president. So it's like a double whammy. Like, he's right now, not only is he picking fights and making them, do things and go into things on the defensive, not being on the offensive, but also he understands very well. People say, "Oh, he's saying they can." Donald Trump. When he goes out and says, "I'm coming into Chicago," let me explain to you. He's already got that approval from people like Stephen Miller, Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, Cash. But I mean, Pete Heck. I mean, all his inner circle, his lawyers. I've told him, "You're good to go. This is what you could do." So when I'm telling he doesn't care like what others are saying and Pritzker is saying. So he's planning on going in. So what my sources are telling me that he's planning on going in strong. They're planning on some major, serious ICE raids, and to the point where to make the news, to cycle, to force Pritzker's hand, to show his income capability of stopping him. See, because this is what people don't understand. This is why I try to sound the alarm. It's like, Pritzker will come out, or what's his name, Newsom comes out, they make a statement. But I said, but look at the result. The result, Trump still sent the guard in. They still are doing it. And at the end of the Newsom standing there having his press with Karen Bass, they're having their press, but they can't do nothing about it. They're not kicking them out. They're not doing it. They left when Trump decided to leave, and he claimed the victory because the federal government, no matter how you look at it, is a lot stronger than the state government. at the end of the day, this federal funding, the way our constitution and rules are written, at the end of the day, because nobody's ever expected that the two branches are going to fail and just lay down to the one branch and give it. That's why our forefathers written why we had why we have the three branches,
Yeah.
because we just in case of somebody like that, a tyrant coming in trying to take over, and Congress and the Senate. But here we have them all bow down to him, and that's why we're having it. So that's why I say it's not only Trump, as bad as he is, as evil as he is, as the biggest monster is, he would be irrelevant if we had people in Congress and in the Senate that had a little of a backbone, because they could control him. Yes, even if he wouldn't be president, he could be a lame duck president right now. Try screaming. He could be that kid, literally on the desk. I want to do this, and the Senate and the Congress could be like, "Behave yourself, Donald. We're gonna impeach you, Donald. You're God." This is how it could be played out, and at the end of the day, he wouldn't even be able to do these things because none of would be approved. He wouldn't even get to the stage we are. But because the enablers allow him to do it, and that's why I always say it's not just him, it's the enablers, because they allowed him, because they in Congress, in the Senate, gave him, I mean, carte blanche, put in people like Pete Hegseth that has no business being in the Department of Defense, Department of War, as he calls it now. You got Kash Patel that just wrote a book about a hit list, running your FBI. You have Pam Bondi that basically is a hardcore lawyer. So it was his lawyer in the impeachment trial, and running your DOJ. You got Tulsi Gabbard that literally, Putin in Russia is just sitting there clapping our girl. They call her our girl Tulsi, and sitting there running our DNI. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on, and then and then you got this fucko Robert Kennedy. I'm sorry that, but this
Oh
I
no,
mean,
please do.
trying to destroy, our health, our kids. I mean, to the point where we got this idiot here in Florida now, basically trying to do away with all vaccines. I mean, it's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
and think about this. Just I want you to stop and everybody think for a second that, as insane as all of this is, 9 months ago, the number one thing we were all talking about was Roe versus Wade, women's rights. We don't even talk about that. We don't even talk about how
No.
many women are dying because they can't get proper care. How many people are getting arrested? The media won't even talk about because they're still trying to get abortions in places they can't. I mean, that didn't stop. Just think about all the outrage we had, how he took us back, God knows how many years, and now they're doing the same thing, but now with our kids' life, with our lives. We've spent you know, and again, everybody has their right. You want to be vaccinated, you don't, that's your God given right. But when you start enforcing, taking away science that has been over centuries, that we've progressed to be able to, that we've proven already to be able to say and force it upon us now to make that not you're not able to have it. I mean, doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense unless your game plan, which I say it is all along, is to cause such chaos, such destruction that you as the regular voter will want a little bit of normalcy, and you will just not care about what's happening and vote for that supposed guy that comes in on his white horse that Donald Trump trusted and says, I could fix it. I'm the only one that could fix it because I'm the only one that broke it. I caused it. I could fix it. Nobody else has it. Nobody knows where the bodies are buried because I'm the one that buried them.
So
I'm
thinking
wondering
about
if we could.
buried bodies,
I was gonna
Ellie.
say, I was wondering if I could switch gears a little bit here.
Yeah, I wanted to go
Um,
there.
okay, because the Wall Street Journal released the actual picture of the birthday letter today, which I feel like they could have done a while back, but maybe not. So just some of my background. So I came into Substack originally talking more about immigration because we had moved from the Western United States to the Eastern United States to a very immigrant heavy community. And now all of our kids' friends are immigrants, and we have seen kids who have disappeared in the middle of the night, and it's very devastating. So that's what got me to Substack. But then at some point in the last couple months, obviously it switched to the Epstein story. So what I've been doing, at first I was just writing these stories that people weren't talking about Wexner and about like the Dalton School, But lately it's been retranscribing some of these Maxwell interviews because they're not done well. They miss a lot. There's mistakes. But something I wanted to ask you while I had you here was while I was transcribing the first day of the interviews with Todd Blanche, Ghislaine Maxwell said the name of one of the Jane Does, and they didn't redact it. And I went back and I searched and I looked to see if this woman had come forward and publicly named herself on. And then on last Wednesday, I looked to see if she was one of the women who came forward, and she's not. And I'm just curious, what are the repercussions for something like that?
I mean, in a normal world, I mean, we would have repercussions, but we don't live in a normal world. I mean, the whole thing that is happening is such theatrics and such, excuse me, bullshit that, just think about it. First of all, for those of you who don't know, I know Todd Blanche used to be my lawyer before he was Donald Trump's lawyer. I fired him, and then he became my co-defendant's lawyer in my trial, and I fought with him the whole time. So I know Todd Blanche very well. Second of all, Todd Blanche is very good friends with David Oscar Marcus, who is Blanche's attorney. They are butt buddies because just so you understand, he has gone on. Marcus has his own podcast that doesn't get even 20 viewers, and Blanche went on it twice as his in the first month as his
Hmm.
number one guest. That's how close they are. Okay, so just so you understand, then when you go to the next steps, most people have never been in a situation where even if you've been arrested, like a lot of people have been arrested, a lot of people went through a system, but to go through a deposition with the FBI and different, that's a different ball game. You gotta go get to a different echelon. Not too many people understand what type of grilling you go through or what happens. I went through that. I've been arrested. I've been deposed by every alphabet letter from the CIA, NSA, FBI, you name it. They followed me. I've sat in a room with all of them in the same room. And what I could tell you, when I listened to that tape that they put out, they're such idiots for even putting out the tape because it just showed how incompetent and how stupid they are. Because there was not any, deposition. There was no grilling. There was no search for the truth. There was no anything. That was basically to come in there. And I think it was like 23 times on day one, he mentioned Donald Trump's name. He mentioned, just think about it. An attorney doesn't ask a question unless he knows the answer to. So you're not gonna tape it. So you're not gonna go in there and put a tape on and sit there and say, well, did Donald Trump do something wrong, not knowing that she said, well, because what if she says yes? What would you do, Todd Blanche? This is how stupid that's how we know, because you're going there as his lawyer. You got the situation set up, and she's not there to do anything else but talk. She's there talking to Donald Trump. And that's why, when you say, is there, some kind of repercussions? I don't think there's going to be any kind of repercussions. Absolutely. I think from what I'm hearing, and that's why my fight is so strong on my platform, because my platform, it had nothing to do with Epstein. I don't know Epstein. I know a lot of people in the circles just because of the world I lived in, and a lot of people intertwined, just like Donald Trump. So I know a lot of the stories. I know a lot of, situations. And because a lot of the girls were, that they don't even talk about, the thousands of victims. A lot of them are Eastern European girls that were sex trafficked from Ukraine, Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all of those countries as young as 16, 17 over here in Florida to, nobody talks about it. Most people think it's only the girls, the American girls, but it was a huge ring. And that's why there's a lot more to, and that's not what my platform was about. My platform was about, speaking truth to power when it came to Donald Trump and his administration. But when I, saw Donald Trump that day flip, I'll never forget, that day when they tried to cover up July 6th. It was July 6th. It was a Sunday. It was that 4th of July long weekend. They tried to bury it. They came out, and I remember even the media, everybody tries, and I was hitting that drum beat so hard, saying, "Don't walk away. This is his kryptonite." This is his kryptonite. He's for Donald Trump to flip like that. I knew because you gotta understand, I was the originator of the mega base that would influence and bring people into the cult. So, and the biggest thing that we discussed and we pushed was the Epstein file because that was the link to the deep state. That was the link to the Obamas, the Clintons, the sex trafficking, to the child pornography, the pedophilia, the blood sucking, and went on to QAnon came out from over there. So there was a lot that was based off of. That's why you're seeing the destruction of the mega base or the cult as you know it over Epstein,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because that was the platform he ran on. And so, because of that, that I have made that my mission also to be a voice for the victims, for the survivors on my platform. And that's why, I've been, doing a lot, going behind the scenes. Also, people like Zev on my platform and others that have been investigating and doing stuff, and, survivors and victims. And, like I have Congressman Ro Khanna coming in next week. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes to push it, to promote it, and to make sure that their voices are heard because he will not let us, he's going to try to bury that. He's going to try to change the history and the worst case scenario, what he's doing, what he should not get away with. And, if you already have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace and Luna Polina and all of these hardcore Trumpers coming out and saying, at least listen to them, and he won't even listen to them. And then you got, start seeing names already of Republicans that are going to coming out. I mean, there's a lot to it. We're gonna keep the focus on it, and I won't let it die out as long as we have a voice on Love Remembers. As long as the support, we'll make sure that we're gonna put a spotlight on it until we get to the bottom line. Because I mean, this should not be a political thing. To release the names of this should not be political, and the
Right.
fact that there's a few people is still that need to get on board to sign it, to bring it to the floor, to it's just, like I said, we need to not just talk about the big names like Johnson or Comer. There's another 200 people that could be signing on the congressmen and congresswomen that are trying to keep quiet under the radar, the midterms. They don't want to be associated. They're like quiet. Nobody, the media is not talking about this. Nobody's calling us out. Let us just sign so nobody says our name, not be controversial. No, I'm making it my mission to call all of them out. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
go after all. We're going to make a list of every single one of them that did not sign on this list, that does not want to release. And you know what? They're going to, for the next year, or as long as they're around, they're going to have to answer to somebody to say, why don't you want the Epstein files out? Like, well, what are you like hiding?
Right. And it was pretty apparent to me why they gave us the audio with the transcripts, because of course they didn't have to. They didn't release the audio of the transcripts that we've had in other trials with Maxwell and with Epstein. And so to me, because I'm a transcriber, that's my job. I've been doing this for a lot of years. To me, the intent behind the audio file that they were giving us was for us to feel empathy toward Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's also why they redacted Virginia Giuffre's names throughout the transcript and throughout the audio files, because most people know Virginia's story by now, and if she's included in that audio file, then of course we're gonna not side with Ghislaine Maxwell. But they redacted her name, and they had all these stories of her, her memory going because she's been in a cell, and she was on the IRA hit list as a child. Like she loves animals. Like there's just all these little sympathy stories, and her acting is really pretty poor, because when she starts to flip over to talk about Donald Trump, it just sounds so robotic and so scripted all of a sudden. Um, and then the thing that I just don't understand, and I don't know what the story is behind it, is Blanche clearly wants to take down Bill Clinton. He has mentioned Bill Clinton so many times in this interview, over and over and over again, and she's clearly defensive about that. She doesn't want to take down Bill Clinton. And so I don't know the story there, but that has been something that has been quite curious to me as I've been typing these up.
It's not the point that Blanche wants to take Bill Clinton. It's again, it's all theatrics with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling you they're because they want you to think that they want to take Bill Clinton down. They don't want to take Bill Clinton down. They want to shut this down because the longer this has life, because if they trust me, when I tell you, Bill Clinton is not the only name on that list. There's a lot of people tied. They want to shut it down, and they understand that if they keep it going, I'm sorry, my phone. Sorry about that. My phone's ringing.
No, no
And
worries.
they understand that if they keep it, give it air and keep it alive, that then there's a possibility for it to come out, other things to come out, and so that's why it's. If you take a look at the way the interview went and there was they tried to be like very like you said very if you don't remember that's okay. I've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody spoke to me like that at that position. Let me
Yeah.
give you
Right.
another example. He asked her a question about, people, if she knew anything about people being taken away from masseuses from the Mar-a-Lago. She said, no, nothing about that. You know your own boss, President Trump said that he did that, that they did
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, that's a,
Right.
like, what I'm saying to you is like part of any interview they say in the interview, and I didn't hear it once on this one. Maybe I didn't listen to the whole interview, but if some, when I was interviewed, my interview was over like 14 hours, and I could tell you probably every 30 minutes, if not every 40 minutes, if not even sooner, they would remind me after me answering a few questions, they would remind me and say, if you lie to us, it's a federal crime and it's punishable by 5 more years in prison. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would go ask me another few questions, and then they would again remind me that. You know what I'm saying to you? And part of that is to be able. You have to. They try to get to the truth. They try to get nowhere. I mean, that Todd Blanche should literally, but Donald Trump does it to everybody. Like, he makes people do things that they will regret for the rest of their life. That audio is going to haunt Blanche for a long time to come because, I mean, he sold his soul and the whole world knows it. They heard it. They saw it. I mean, uh, uh, he better make a lot of money while he's with Donald Trump because and hope that he doesn't get that Donald gives him
Right.
some sort of a pardon or whatever that yeah, because there with that tape he showed he did a lot of things that he could have repercussions down the road, even the
Right.
transfer. People say, oh, how they transfer. Well, there's no conversation. You will there's somebody that signed that transfer and it came from Black. Just like how did they're worried about the transfer. You tell me I was in prison and I don't know that when I saw her coming out of prison with her box of paperwork and going to a different place to get questioned. Are you kidding me? You,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know people like this is what I'm saying to you. Like the way this whole thing went down, the way she was treated, the way everything, and the way
Yeah.
she continues to be treated. And I said all along, Trump doesn't need to pardon her. She'll disappear in the prison system. Like slowly but surely they'll transfer her. In the prison system, there's a witness protection also, and then all of a sudden they lose your name. You become a number, then that number disappears, and then nobody knows when you got out, where you live, where you're sent. And so there's a lot of that that's what I'm saying to you. The federal government is very powerful. There's a lot of different ways, and that's why we sometimes get caught up with concentrate. Oh, he's going to pardon her. He's going to pardon. If he pardons her, that's to stick it to us. That's to stick it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
what I'm saying to you. So,
Yeah. That's his. I can shoot you on Fifth Avenue. That's just one of
yeah,
those because
exactly.
I mean, listening to I when he got on the airplane and said that he actually did remember Virginia Giuffre, I kind of wondered what the people behind him were thinking in that moment because to say you knew a 16-year-old locker room girl in a staff of 150 people that you remembered that one face and that name stood out to you is not what you want to say if you're a guy in his position and certainly not if you have Ghislaine Maxwell on the line to prove your innocence. I found that very interesting. And I assumed it was one of those where he went up and said whatever he wanted and everybody told him, no, 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 don't say it. But I don't know.
Well, you know what, see what a lot of people forget, and because of the way society is, we try to change history. If we
Mhm.
would just go back for a second and say, okay, we understand that today is 2025. We have progressed as a society, so we now understand that women should have equal rights. We understand that there should not be racism. We should not be judged on the color of our skin or what religion we are. We've grown to that. But if we go back 40 years or 60 years, and take a snapshot in time, we did not think the same way. Not everybody, the majority of the country, and that's why we fought for certain rights and certain things. Now, let's same thing with when we talk about the abuse of women and the abuse of young girls, and let's look at the Me Too movement. Before the Me Too movement, now we talk about people are scared, but if we take a look at the 1970s and the 1980s, people like Donald Trump, people like Epstein, and there's a lot more of them. It wasn't just the
Mhm.
movie industry or thing. They treated young girls. It was a different cabal. Just like we talk about what's his name, Harvey Weinstein in the movie industry, or P Diddy in the music industry. Well, the Rich Man Billionaires Club was the same exact thing. That was society. It was wanting that young girl or being powerful men doing what they wanted to, having those, that's how, swingers clubs came around, all of those underground dungeon clubs came out, which, again, to each his own. And again, as long as it's, age appropriate, I'm not here to judge anybody's sexual preferences. But what I'm saying to you is was a different society. It was
Right.
different. Women were treated differently. Girls, didn't expect to have the same rights. That they were. When you were a father. I remember my sister. Not that it would be a big deal to try to be a woman to be a lawyer in this. In the 70s or 80s, or I think it'd be a Supreme Court judge or maybe a president. That would be like those would be some far out.
Mind
So
blowing.
it was a different society,
Right.
and it was and people expected it, and so that's why people like Donald Trump and Epstein, they acted without any kind of repercussion, because
Right.
you had a lot of powerful people, judges, politicians, all of them. Not all of them, let me rephrase, but a lot of them that accepted because it was accepted in society. And then when the shift happened, they all started covering up for each other, because
Right.
they all had that, oh, I was at that party, or maybe, and not, and I'm saying to you, maybe not everybody was as bad as everybody else. Maybe other people were just at the wrong place, wrong time, made a mistake, whatever. I'm not here to give everybody, but it was, a different society. Just like during the cocaine era, there's a lot of people that did cocaine that won't admit it, but there are politicians, doctors, lawyers, judges, police, captains, you name it. They during the cocaine era, almost everybody was trying and doing it. It was just, I'm saying to you, it was, but that's the type of thing. So we sometimes forget and try to look at it from a lens in 2025 and say, oh, Donald Trump, well, he would do it. He's 80 years old now. When Donald Trump was 40, 35 years old in
Right.
his prime in New York City, wanting to be a playboy, how many, walk around with 10 girls in his, that was just think about that mindset. Why did Donald Trump buy Miss Universe, Miss Teen Universe? Because that was to be able to have his, like, where to be able to get all these girls and girlfriends, and look who he was dating. How did he look? Melania, she was a supermodel. What I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, this was the world they lived in. So that's why people shouldn't be shocked that they did these things.
Right.
They should be shocked that the cover up is being allowed to happen in 2025. That there are people that are covering up now still till this day, that and it's somehow being allowed on this happen. That's the crazy part.
Well, and I think you can take it even a step farther and say that because of there's a lot of like narcissism and sociopathy that kind of have gone into this billionaire boys club. I don't think they necessarily feel bad for what they did now. Like they just know that societally it's wrong and they can be caught
Exactly.
for it, but they don't actually feel bad for having done
Absolutely
it
not.
because in their heyday, the standards were lower. Like I was a teenager in the 90s. I know the standards of treatment for women were lower. But then, even taking that a step further, this idea that they, at least half the time, were searching for girls in Eastern Europe where they didn't have the same age of consent as America, where they didn't have the same standards of marriage and relationships with older men that we have here. If they couldn't get it here in the 90s, they could go to Eastern Europe, and they very often did. And that's why you see all these women in their circle who are from Eastern European countries. And some of those countries, the parents were happy to send their kids to America because it was a better, I mean, if you looked at it objectively, it looked really, really great for them. But I don't think, if you got Donald Trump into a polygraph at this moment, I don't think he feels bad for anything he's done.
No, absolutely. You gotta understand. Not only they feel. Look, I used to hang out. I used to call it the good old boys club,
Hmm.
because what you see on TV and then when you see behind the scenes when they're smoking cigars, sitting there when the cameras are off, it's different. They're still all racist. They're still all. That's why you see. Look, you could tell that they're trying to build a pure white country supremacy. I'm white. We're all white, but we're normal human beings. We want equal for everybody. We don't want to go back 100 years because I have friends, family, relatives that are black, brown. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying to you? But that's what the mentality. And I used to remember sitting with them, and you would hear just like about you, it'd be funny that Rudy Giuliani. Let's take Rudy Giuliani for an example, right? I would literally go with him after to the Jewish synagogue, to this Jewish burial of the rabbi, and to get, because they needed to get votes, and he would put a kippah on. He would, all for Jews, and then literally behind the scenes, I literally heard tapes of him about talking about how Jews are disgusting and Jews are
Hmm.
like, it's like behind the scenes. Same thing with
Yeah.
women. You think it changed now? It's just that they are more careful and caught. You'd watch him take a picture and put his hand a little lower on her back, and see the reaction if she would go. I mean, just think about Matt Gaetz would not be allowed into certain super PAC events because he would be hitting on donors' wives. It's like, yeah, like you can't, and like it's the shit that happens in Congress, and it's not just Mackey, it's not just Republicans too. I don't want to sit here and just try to say it works both ways, Republicans, Democrats. I'm saying to you, it's just a really messed up world when it comes to when people get power, and this is what they don't
Hmm.
understand. Power is worse than any drug, and that's why Donald Trump, you're seeing him go, he's losing it completely because he's gotten so much power that he doesn't even know what to do with himself. And that's why every day we're seeing such chaotic thing. Same thing with a lot of these people in Congress, Senate, judges, Lord, they get this power, it hits them in their head. And that's why you see, we're all human beings. People sometimes forget and think just because you have a judge at the name, or you have a lawyer or a doctor, or you have, a congressman or senator, that means that you're different. No, that means you should be different. You should be held to different account. You should have different more to hold that position. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
we're all human beings. And
Right.
you don't know what's in your closet. On the outside, you could be that perfect human being. And then when you come home, you could be that psychopath that care. And you could be running our country to being a judge on the board, to being a police officer. It's just, some get caught, some don't, what I mean? And that's
Hmm.
what you say. My father used to tell me, you're great. People say, oh, I can vouch for him. I know him 30 years. He's been great. He's been great until he's not great. Because as soon as
Hmm.
he becomes bad, doesn't matter. He can be great for 30 years, but
Right.
then when that day he turns and becomes a monster, that's it. So
Well,
you never.
we've all heard it, like the celebrity who gets a speeding ticket and says, "Don't you know who I am?" Like when you reach a certain level of money and power and permission, you change, and not very many people handle that very well. I would say the majority of people don't know how to handle that. And you see this kind of bell curve with Donald Trump where he was doing all that. He was doing all the I don't need you to tell me that I can't do this. I can grab women by the pussy. I can do all this thing and be proud of it. And then you had your first administration where they kind of said, well, maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that stuff while we're running a country. And he was given more power, more money, and more permission. And now he's just no holds barred. Now he's do whatever the hell he wants, and no one can stop him. And it's part of it is his age and that kind of dementia idea, but part of it is back to the shooting someone on Fifth Avenue. He knows now that he has the permission to do this, to say this, and to continue on in this path.
Absolutely. Guys, I want to thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
This is incredible. Nick, I want you guys are great. I want you to keep up doing what you're doing. I want to let's come back. Let's revisit. Let's keep talking. Let's building the community and keeping people aware, because that's the most important part right now, is spreading the message. So we have a little bit over, I think 500-600 people right now. Each and every one of you, please make sure you subscribe to each and every one of us up there. Make sure you go out there and spread the message. The conversation we've been having here, you need to take that and you need to express it far and wide, because all of these little things here and there, you don't know what clicks with which individual. Because the one thing we want to get out, and I tell all these Democrats and everybody out there, is stop being an echo chamber. Go out there. We need to get the information and the message out there, because the people you're talking about are going to vote for you anyway. The rallies you're holding, that 30,000 people for Bernie, AOC, great. God bless you. But they're going to vote for you anyway. We need to get to the other side. We need to get the message far and wide. We need to be able to be louder than their lies. Our truth has to be louder than their lies. And the only way that happens is be with your support, each and every one of you. So I want to thank you guys. God bless each and every
Thank
one of you.
you.
God bless America.
Thank you so much,
Slava
Lev.
Ukraini. And I'll see you guys again. Just let me know when. I'll be there, definitely. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Lev. I appreciate that. And I'll
Thank you,
send
Lev.
you
So,
some stuff. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Take
yeah,
care. Have a
thank
great
you
day.
so much,
Bye.
Lev. Bye, Lev. And Ellie, we're going to close this out here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to invite Lev too next time we can. Now, I know you had to drop, is come to Arkansas, because red places like Arkansas, we want the attention. We are desperate to pull the rug out from under the lie, not from the people who are believing the lie, but from the lie itself, to pull the rug out from under them so that they can be free of it and can join us. Like, that's all I want. I want our country to go forward. I want to fucking stop. I don't want to go to civil war. Like, the only alternative is fucking civil war. We do not want that. Like,
I've said it from the beginning.
not want that.
I've said it from the
Peaceful
beginning.
and
He
patriotic.
doesn't want a world war. He wants to be Lincoln. He thinks he's being Abraham Lincoln by going into Chicago and pulling people off the streets. That's who he thinks he's being right now, because he wants to be that patriotic Civil War time president. And that's his plan.
Yep. So thank you everyone for coming to today's Ellie's exclusive on Banner and Backbone with Ellie Leonard and Nick Parrow and our special guest, Lev Parnas. So thank you everyone. Have a great afternoon. Descent from this madness and spread the word. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, Ellie.